Hi, I'm Brian Harmon, and we are Harmonizing Humanity. Our guest today is Everett Seely, and he's got a lot of interesting things to tell us about. First of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, your parents, your siblings, that sort of thing?
Sure, Brian. My name is, Brian was saying, Everett Seely. I'm actually from Youngstown, Ohio. And
I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, well, my father moved the family out here when I was 7, and there was a bright future. He had family members out here, so we came out here on I remember we pulled in on the 4th of July, 1959. And running around the front yard, we had some relatives we stayed with and so forth. We had a tremendous time growing up in Southern California. You remember those days, it was bean fields and corn fields, and there was dairies in Orange County, just a lot of wide open spaces, houses being built, new tracts of homes. It was just a period of growth and an amazing opportunity here in Southern California. It was wide open. So I was a little 7-year-old kid, enrolled in a little elementary school here in Costa Mesa, and started from there, and grew up here in Garden Grove, and went to Santiago High School actually, and from there I went on to life, and the journey began.
Well, I'm going to have you talk about your parents and your siblings in a minute, but it's so interesting. It's so interesting to me. It's so similar to my background. We moved to California in '56, and so I was 5 years old, and we moved to Hawthorne, which is where I lived for the next 30 years or so. In '57, I was 6 years old, and we didn't have any cane fields what is it, orange fields?
Oh, there's orange groves and beans and
bean
corn.
fields. We didn't have any bean fields in Hawthorne.
Sure.
We didn't have any orange groves. We did have
strawberries are really big around here.
Yeah, we didn't have any of that stuff. I guess when Disney built its park there in '55, that's when this place started changing, and most of the houses around here weren't built until probably the '60s, maybe '50s.
Yeah, there was a boom, an amazing boom in the '60s.
Yeah, in the
housing.
'60s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we found when we were looking for houses for a long period of time, like a year, we went around and looked at houses all around Orange and Tustin and Garden Grove and all those. Let's see, where else? North Tustin. Anyway, most of the houses we looked at were built in 1961. It's like, how is that possible? They built 500,000 houses in 1 year, but it was kind of crazy. 60, 61, 62, they really went nuts.
There's a lot going on then.
Yeah.
Amazing period of growth.
Yeah, tell us about your parents. I'm sure they've been, and your siblings, I'm sure they've been important in your life.
Yes, Brian, my dad actually was a war hero. In 1945, in March, he was part of Operation Varsity, one of the bloodiest and most destructive campaigns in airborne history. He was 19 years old, I think it was, and he was flying in a aircraft about 800 feet, and the red light went on, and his group jumped out of the airplane, of course, and he said as he got to the door, all he saw was thousands and thousands of the sky was full of parachutes and other men in different categories and different stages of their jumps, and the skies were full of shrapnel exploding all around him, and he saw planes on fire. It was just a terrible sight, and my dad made it to the ground, obviously, and there was shooting and explosions all around, and that campaign was one of the worst in recorded history for the American Army. So he came back from that, and of course in 1946 he was discharged, and then he came home, and in 1952 I was born, and of course I have a sister that is 3 years older than I am, and I have a brother that's 7 years older than I am. But Dad and Mom moved us out to Southern California in 1959. I was 7 years old, and at that point, Dad had, he was a mechanic. He had learned how to, in the military and with his own father, learned how to work on cars and so forth, and he immediately got a job. He started working at Hughes Aircraft, actually. And there was a booming aerospace industry at the time here, and so Dad excelled really well at the company. I remember going when he worked nights, my mom and Dad and my sister, we'd jump in the car and we'd go and have lunch with him, and we'd eat off the roast coach, and that was always fun to see Dad work, and I was a young kid, and so that was a good memory. And my dad and Mom purchased a home in Garden Grove, and I was able to, I tell you what, one thing I remember my dad was a really honest man, and that was a value. I remember he was getting gas one time, and he was 3 cents short, and the guy, the station attendant said, "Oh, it's okay." And my dad said, "Oh, no, I got just 3 cents." He went fiddling around in the car. He got 3 cents and handed it back to him. He said, "Dad, why'd you give him 3 cents? Why didn't you just walk away?" He said, "No, I owed a man 3 cents, and I want to give it to him." Little things like that, the value of morality, the value of just having values, the value of a dollar.
Sounds like your dad was sort of like Honest Abe, who supposedly walked 5 miles or 10 miles or something to go back to the lady that he'd shorted her 10 cents or something like that. And but my dad was like that too. I don't remember him ever actually worrying about. I mean, I don't know if he ever was short 3 cents, but he was so honest. It was like almost disgusting. He was so honest. Like if you said, "Oh, can you take me to the park tomorrow?" he would say, "I don't make promises," because he was afraid if he made a promise, he wouldn't be able to fulfill it.
And my father, his word was his word. He didn't get a contract. His word was his word, and those are the kind of things that were passed down to me. And today, I'm very conscious of that also, very convicted of what I say to people. I want to fulfill it. I want to do it. And
yes, I am too.
Yeah.
And when somebody says something that's not correct, I sometimes tell them, I'm sorry, that's not quite right. And if they give me a bunch of stuff about it, sometimes I can get really upset. I don't know if you've seen me get upset, but it really doesn't look very nice. And I don't look like someone who harmonizes humanity at that point.
Right.
But it's just kind of like, well, if you don't care whether what you say is true, then why do you bother to say anything? Why would anyone want to listen to you? But I just got it from my dad. It's not really my fault, right?
Yeah, there's a sense of peace and contentment when you go to bed at night, knowing that you're living what you've done in the day was an honest day's work, and it was what you said was true, and you know it was true, and those are the kind of values that I pass down to my children also, and to my grandchildren. And these are the qualities of community that need to be, or need to continue on in community. So, because certainly how we live in life, in our neighborhoods and so forth, and we've got to be people that can trust each other. And we have people that have integrity and that are good neighbors.
So do you apply those ideas to your business too?
I do. I think that when I'm a contractor, so when I come into an agreement with a client, I think it's important for me to follow through on what we've agreed upon. And sometimes a client will say, no, we get into a little bit of a disagreement, and they say, well, you said this. So, I don't remember saying that, but if you said I said that, I'll do that. But I don't remember saying that. And so I just think it's, I'm one that I want to be a peacemaker. I want to, when I do a job for somebody, I want to walk away from the job and be their friends at the end of the day. And that goes a long way to promoting good welfare and peace and just general enjoyment of life. I don't have to be, fretting and worry and anxiety. Those are a lot of the things in life that cause people to have high blood pressure, and they're nervous and they're angry. And I've learned that probably through my father. and through my faith in Jesus Christ, to let things go, to have a amiable agreement with other people, and not. I don't always have to be right, Brian. I think that's sometimes I'll say, you know what, I don't see it exactly the way you see it, but because I want to promote peace and harmony, and I want our relationship to be good.
Well, it almost sounds like you try to make the world a better place by harmonizing humanity.
That's right. It seems like that's what we're talking about. That's the name of the show.
Yeah, I didn't even tell you to say that. Huh? But
That's very
I have to confess that even that my strong point is honesty, but getting along with other people I'm not always that strong on. Sometimes if people are really obnoxious, or I feel like they're being condescending or whatever, sometimes I can be a little bit prickly, you know.
Right.
Or sometimes even downright mean, I think. Although I wouldn't necessarily characterize it as being mean. Some other people might look at it that way. But so, have you found that helped your business, or do you find that it worked really well for you?
Well, it's when you're in business. I started my business in 1981, and been in business a long time. I've made a lot of relationships and made some mistakes, obviously, but for the most part, I've been able to raise my family through the business, and I got to tell you, it's a mindset, it's a way of life. To where you build a reputation. A reputation is so important. A man's name is so important. And when your business, your livelihood depends upon what you've done in the past, it's a good tattletale on how you're going to be working in the future. And so that's how I built my business, and I'm very proud of how I've worked in the past.
Mm-hmm. Right. The reason I ask that is because, well, a couple of reasons, but one thing is that we find in developing countries, the countries where they don't have as high a standard of living as in modern industrialized societies, generally you see the opposite in business. Like what I've heard really honest people, business people in Mongolia saying is that if you don't take bribes, you can't succeed in business or government or anything else. You'll be blackballed. I guess maybe if they're afraid that if you don't take bribes, maybe you'll be ratting out people who do. I don't know, maybe something like that. But it's kind of it's awful, because that's one of the things that holds those countries down, because it's really hard to start a business of any kind. If you want to build a building or something, and you know that the person who's working for you is going to cheat you, then it's kind of hard to operate really efficiently. Or if you say, will you show up on Monday? And they say, yes, I'll show up on Monday. And they don't show up on Monday, and you can't give them an advance because they walk away with the advance, and they say, well, they just got something for free, right?
Right, yeah.
And yet they don't want to work for you without an advance because they're sure you're going to cheat them out of it.
Yeah.
And so in a couple of countries that I've been to, like the Philippines, where I spent some time, and in Mongolia, where I was in July, they don't use checks, because if they did, you would assume that the person writing the check doesn't have the money in the account. Otherwise, why wouldn't they just give you cash, right? So when we bought a car in the Philippines, my wife felt like a drug dealer, because we literally had a suitcase full of Filipino money, just like, I don't know, whatever it was, $3,000 or $4,000, but that was a big old pile of money. And you put it in the trunk, right, and lock it so that somebody won't notice that you've got a big trunk in your back seat. But it makes life really inconvenient for people who want to buy things, because it's such so. And And if you try to start a business and you find out that every government worker and his cousin is coming and asking you for a little bit of money to smooth grease the rails, I guess what they say, something like that, to get your paperwork done on time. And it wouldn't be so bad, but how do you know when you've paid off the right people, or how many or there's still more people you have to pay off? So it's really horrible. I think I've been really impressed with the fact that without some kind of an ethical basis, I don't think a country can improve. I don't know if there's any exception. Some kind of borderline. I don't know. In China, they still have a lot of bribery, but there's a certain honesty involved there too, where people have gotten their heads chopped off because they didn't stand up for what they wanted. But you've talked about your business, but what do you do besides that when you're not working? What do you do for fun, is what we used to say.
Well, Brian, it's as we age and grow older, we gain wisdom, and all through the journey of life, I'm an advocate of always being a student. I'm an advocate of being a learner, a lifelong learner, and never giving up on learning. Because most people, when they get out of college, or high school or college, they never read another book, and they read 1 or 2 books, and it's not important to them anymore. They just settle in and they begin to coast, and they wind up in not really gaining and growing into their full potential in life, what they really could contribute. And so I'll be 65 in May, and even now, as I'm getting to 65, I'm not looking to retire. I'm looking to refire my life, rekindle, to reload, you might say, to go on and to discover what other possibilities, building upon what I've learned in the past. In a sense, it's like halftime. I wouldn't say I'm at halftime. Maybe I'm in the fourth quarter, or maybe in the starting the fourth quarter, but. I've been able to evaluate what I learned in the first half of life, and what can I use from all the experiences or reputation of the people I've met to move forward and to continue to make an impact, to contribute to our community, our life, so that those who are behind, those who are following me, can be better prepared. And you reap the benefits of a good marriage. When you pay attention to your kids, you reap the benefits of watching. When you pay attention to your children, you raise them with principles, and you raise them with ethics, and you raise them with kindness and with values. You reap the benefits of that. Yeah, you pay the price in the time that you have to spend with them, but it was just a real good lesson to me. And he and a lot of other motivational speakers, and of course the biblical trainings and so forth that I've had have moved me to be a lifelong learner. Because not only having the knowledge of things, but taking action to do things is very important. And so I look at there's so much potential now in my life still. And this is my body. You might say it's a temple that I live in, and so I want to take care of it. There's so many people that I look at who are they've got so much to offer for life, but they hit 50 or 55 or 60, and they're overweight. They're in walkers. They don't take care of themselves. So my point is that God has given us this temple, and He's given us a mind, and since we have that, we're responsible for it, because I'm responsible for my own body. I'm responsible for what I watch and what I do with my time. We only have so much time, so I'm really being more and more disciplined about what I do with that, so that I can, when it's my time to pass or to go, I don't have to live I don't have to have any regrets. I mean, maybe we'll all have some regrets, but I'm happy to say I have a great relationship with my kids. I've got a great relationship with my wife and my grandkids, and I'm through the concept of being a lifelong learner. I'm passing that on to them. I want to read books to them. I want to be an example and a model of the positive and the good and the noble and the things that are just and right and with integrity and so forth in life, so that, I mean, these things are wonderful things that all employers want in an individual, but very few are. You might say there's a drought for those types of people, because many people seem to have this attitude of entitlement. So with that in mind, I'm looking forward to my 65th year and moving on and through there, and hopefully the good Lord will give me many more years to be productive and to contribute to the community and my neighborhood and my family in many positive ways.
Well, that's really interesting. How like most people start to slack off when they turn 65, but you're cranking on, pushing the gas pedal at this point.
Absolutely, it's not. In my opinion, I mean, you asked me what I like to do for recreation or relaxing. I work out, I surf, I play golf. I like to play games with my kids and some fun game nights with neighbors and family and so forth.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because when I asked, what do you do for fun, I heard all this other stuff about yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much fun. I mean,
So you golf, and what do you do with your kids?
Well, we play games, we go to parks, we ride bikes.
That's right. I called him on the telephone, and he was playing
hide
and seek with his grandkids, and he's going, "Oh, hang on just a second. Oh, I see you."
That's right. So yeah, it's nice to have a good relationship and with family.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is that people have interviewed thousands of people who are dying.
Yes.
And they've compiled their data and everything, and they find out that nobody ever says in their last breath, "I sure wish I'd worked more at the office."
Right.
More time at the office. If I'd only put more time at the office, then I could really die a happy person.
Right.
They say things like, "I should have spent more time with my kids," or "I should have traveled more. I should have spent more time gardening, which is so much fun, and I only did it 5 minutes a week at the most," right?
Yeah.
But I think that's maybe one thing to consider when you're living your life is when you're at the end, what are you going to look back on and say, that was a good thing I did, and what are you going to look back on and say, well, that wasn't such a good thing?
Yeah, that's a sobering question, Brian, because there's a verse in the Bible that actually says that our life is like a vapor. It's here for a minute and it's gone.
Mm-hmm. That's what I feel like.
Life is so short.
Wasn't it just like a few minutes ago that we were 20 years old or something?
It really feels that way sometimes.
Like, whoa! I look in the mirror, I go, that's not me. That's no. Actually, when I lost my beard and my mustache with the cancer and all that, when I looked in the mirror, I saw my dad looking back at me. It's like, this is scary. This is not good. I had to grow my mustache as soon as possible. I should have put on a fake mustache. Kind of spooky. My dad was dead by then,
Yeah.
That's not what you want to see.
What I would say is we near the end of our lives, and it's interesting that you might say that when we start out in life, we have a jar full of marbles, if you can think about it that way. And
that's not about the jar full of marbles. Oh no, go ahead.
Or a jar full of anything, but let's say your jar is full of marbles. That's the start of your life.
Yeah.
If you take a marble out every year, and pretty soon you don't really know how long you're going to live, but all of a sudden you're looking at your jar and you've got a few marbles left.
Mm-hmm. You don't know quite how many, but there's not as many as you had before, though.
Life is ebbing away, and so now it's so important to take advantage and to be conscious of it and to see how precious it really is. And so for me, because we're all gonna die, obviously, and so for me as a Christian, I have this hope that Jesus said that if you believe in me, you will never die, you will live. There's this hope of eternity. When we receive Christ as our Savior, I've been forgiven of my sins, and because of that, I know I'm right with God, I'm justified with God. And so, for God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, that whoever believes on Him should not perish but have everlasting life.
So you've done a lot of traveling?
Yes, Brian, I have done a lot of traveling. Back in 2000 and 99, I was in Russia for a couple tours over there. I went over there with some outreach groups. We were doing some community work, helping in the community, some churches and so forth. And then I went to Haiti for a couple times, helping over there at a church that we were working in, a mission group. And then we also went to, another time, I went to Brazil. And I went down to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and it was fantastic to meet the people down there and see what life is like in Brazil. And we went to, we had an adventure over in Nepal, and that was fun, seeing what's going on in Nepal and the people over there and how they live. And what's nice about traveling is just to see what the world is like. I think it's important to get outside of the bubble of the United States, but to come back here, we kiss the ground because we're so blessed. So appreciative of where we live, but to travel around the world to see what other people are like, how they live, and so forth is just so fantastic, because it gives you an empathy for them, and it gives you a sense of wanting to help them and wanting to pray for them, and to want to come back and to be a part of giving them a hand up and helping. So it's been really great. I've been back to Brazil a few times, and looking forward to going to Haiti again. And we've got many friends over there. So I think I really encourage traveling.
So I think you've already talked about why you do all of these things, and I think it's really nice that you go to Haiti and help out people that are just really poor, poorer than the poorest person here. I mean,
so true.
Homeless people here usually have shoes, right? But
if
in Haiti, if you have shoes, you're not poor, right?
It's sad to see what some of the kids are wearing over there.
And then when they have a disaster, they're not ready for it.
Living in tents, we've talked and helped and been with many people that have been in tent cities. That's all they have is a tent.
Right. And that's what they have. And so you're doing your part to harmonize humanity. And I thank you for being with us.
All right, Brian. Thanks for having me.
And I'm Brian Harmon, and we're harmonizing humanity.